Welcome back, everybody. Orif Bari, healthy winter, and it's good to see everybody again. People are just starting to get on, okay? Um, Parshat Noach, um, it's amazing. We're already at Parshat Noach, okay? Everything goes like the blink of an eye. So I have essentially two pieces here, and if we run out of time, I'll do a few things maybe that are not on the sheet. I have a piece from Rav Hutner and a piece from Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. By way of introduction, number 1 through 4 is just sort of an introduction into what we're going to discuss with Rav Hutner. So you have in number 1 is the last you have in Vayinachem Hashem ki asa et ha'adam ba'aretz. God after the Mabul, what happened with how the world sunk in terms of morals and ethics. Vayinachem Hashem ki asa et ha'adam. Hashem had remorse. He had regret. Yinachem has many meanings, right? We talk about nichum avelim, to comfort the mourner. But part of the comforting of the mourner, it's all really one word. You're menachem him because there's something missing, right? There's regret that we have to deal with. I didn't have enough of the person, right? But Vayinachem here, he regretted that he created man. Vayityatzeva libo, and he was sad. Vayomer Hashem, emched ha'adam asher barati. I'm going to destroy the ha'adam that I created. Me'al pnei ha'adama, me'adam, ve'ad behema. Everybody, the animals, the humans, ad remes, the creeping things, varof hashemayim, the birds, ki nichamti asitem, because I have remorse, I have regret that I created them. Now, the word Adam is also referring to Adam Arishon, right? There's a certain regret that the Ribbono Shel Olam has for creating Adam and the future generations of Adam, and what that means exactly is what we're going to try. How does the Ribbono Shel Olam have regret? How does God have regret? How can we speak about God having regret, Ribbono Shel Olam, right? Next, number 2, V'hakimosi es brisi itach. And then he tells, at the end of the last pasuk in Bereshis, Noach matzachen beinav, that Noach was good, was favorable to the Ribbono Shel Olam, right? So something was afoot here. He regretted creating man, but v'hakimosi es brisi itach, I'm going to establish my covenant with you. Uvasa el ateva, you're going to come into the ark. Ata uvanecha, you and your sons, v'ishtecha, your wife, uneshevanecha, and your daughters-in-law. You're going to come, itach, you're going to come, everybody, your family's going to come with you. Doesn't use the word family yet, by the way. By the way, the first time the word family, mishpacha, is used in the Torah, the first time is when they come off the teva. When they come out of the ark, they are called a mishpacha, because we're going from there's you'll forgive the expression that when after the flood, this is a watershed moment, coming in a certain sense from an individual focus to a family focus now. And is sort of, that's why you see how this pasuk is structured. Ata vanecha, your sons. Then he goes to Ishtecha, your wife, uneshevanecha, and the wives of, so the family units are separated, right? The idea of mishpacha does not begin until the new world order of the watershed moment of coming off the ark. Okay, but here he's going to make a brit a covenant with what is that brit? So Rashi says, v'hakimoti et briti, brit hayatzarach al haperot shelo yirkavu v'yapshu. So he made a covenant. The covenant is a relationship between two people, right? So he's making a relationship between himself and Noach. that the food will not rot. That's one approach. Or he says, Ushalo Yahargu Rishoyim Shabadu, that you won't be killed. If there are any Rishoyim around, you won't be killed. So somehow the bris is dealing with the future safety of Noach and his mishpacha, right? They'll have food. No one's going to harm them. The Ramban brings something else in number 4. He quotes from the Ibn Ezra, V'hakimoti et briti. Amar Rabbi Avram, he's quoting the Ibn Ezra, he often does. He's going to eventually disagree with him. We're not going through the whole Rabban. Lo'ot ki Hashem nishbalo shelo yamut. He promised him he's not going to die. He's not going to die. He'll live on, right? B'mabul hu banav. There'll never be a mabul again, right? If it's not written mefurish, it's written later on in Sefer Devorim. And then the last line here in number 4, so the Ibn Ezra suggests that this brit, this covenant, is referring to the rainbow itself. If we have some time at the end, maybe we'll talk about the rainbow in a little bit more depth. But the rainbow, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu put a rainbow in the sky as a promise that he'll never bring a mabul again. Okay. So now, that's our introduction. Let's take a look at what Rav Hutner is saying, and it is a classic idea, and it could be used for Lech Lecha and Noach. He starts out asking a wonderful question. Lech Lecha, next week. Lech Lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladetecha u'mibeit avicha. There were 10 nisyonot, 10 challenges. There's actually a machlokas harishonim what those 10 are, but everybody agrees the first one was lech lecha, to pick yourself up and leave. And he's not telling him really where he's going specifically, right? Lech lecha me'artzecha, from your nation, your home, your country, mimoladetecha, from your birthplace, u'mibeit avicha, and from your father's house. We mention almost every year, I mention the Kli Yakar, that this is backwards, chronologically. If a person is going on a trip, first you leave your house, then you'll leave the city limits, possibly in an airplane, and then you'll leave your country. So the Torah says it backwards, right? It's not backwards, because this is a certain sense, the test it's a psychological test, it's an emotional test. The easiest, we have all kinds of allegiances, right? Person has a national allegiance to his country, right? Not that I can understand that anybody has a national allegiance to any country in the West today except Eretz Yisrael. But in any case, a person has a certain allegiance to his country. That's the easiest thing to leave. Then a person has a certain allegiance to his hometown, right? The Gemara in Sota Daf Mem Zayin actually says that a person has nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael, but a person has a very strong emotional attachment to his hometown, to where he grew up, to the house he grew up in. There's a certain attachment. That's harder to leave than his country. Finally, mibeit avicha, to leave father and mother. So it's not backwards, right? This is really the proper order when we speak about the challenge that Avraham Avinu is being put through in this test. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom continues. Here's the test. Escha legoy gadol. I'm going to make you into a great nation. I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to make your name great. Okay? This is the test, right? Now, Rav Hutner asks a simple question. He puts there's something unique here. Hine mityached nisayon ze mibein shar hanisyonot shenitnaseh behem Avraham Avinu. This test is totally different than all the other tests that Avraham was given, this first test. B'zeh shehuftach lo haschar b'shah shenitztava al ma'asehu. He promises him the reward before he goes, right? So if you think about it in terms of chinuch, is it a good thing to do, not a good thing? But one thing is for sure, the Rebbeinu Shalom does not do this with any other test he gives Avraham, but with the first test, he tells him the future. You're going to leave, you're going to go, we'll figure out where you're going, but you're going to be rewarded. You're going to be a great person, right? And we make your name great. Hare Nisoyin HaAkeda, you go to the Akeda, right, which is one of the 10 tests. Shenemar lo vayirash zaracha et sha'ar oivav. That your seed will inherit the gates of your enemy. But bo lo b'haftacha achar hamais, that was after the Akeda. After Avram went through the Akeda, was willing to sacrifice his son, then he was told the reward, right? Yan asher asita, because of what you did. Ilu v'shat hatzirui, haleu leolah, lo nemer lo nirmaz lo klum. When he said, take your son up and put him on the altar, he doesn't tell him anything. He doesn't tell him what the reward's going to be. So, hello, Davar. It's interesting that for some reason the Rebbeinu Shalom is telling him the future at that moment. Number 8. B'yichud zeh ganuz yisod godol. In this unique idea, this unique action, if you will, of Kaviyachol and Kodesh Baruch Hu, there is a tremendous foundational ethic. Mivusamhu al hamavur etzleinu b'maimer yom noroyim shanazu. He says, I discussed it. This is the Maimore Pachad Yitzchak, which were published posthumously from Hutner. His Talmidim put them together, that he had written them up. But he writes in here that I discussed this in the Yom Noroim of that particular year. It's interesting, in the footnote, they could not find the notes for that mimer that he's referring to, but just as an aside. Hameduber Hayah, the topic of discussion was B'hagdarat Brit, the idea of a Brit, a covenantal relationship. Bitor Hanhaga Dilemala, a Brit in heaven, Shel Parota Vitikun Almasa Shel Ha'avar. In other words, the discussion is that just like we make a deal in our world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a deal in his world. And the rules of the game of the deal are the same to a certain extent, he's going to say. Right? When you make a deal, Lamala, there's charata. First of all, he had remorse. Binachem, he had regret. He had betikun and repair. Now he's going to repair what he was remorseful about. He didn't like what he created in Adam. Now he's going to recreate Adam. Al Maisa Shel Avar. Right? He's going to repair the past. Bitsir Shel Nichamti Ki Asitim. That's what he says, right? I regret that I created him. Kilomar, in other words, Shekach Sidra HaHanhoga Elyona. This is exactly how the Rebbeinu Shalom Kaviyachol functions. First, there's remorse, right? And then I'm going to do something in the future, right? Kilomar, Shekach Sidra HaHanhoga Elyona. Mahalach Hanhoga Shel Tshuva V'tikun Shel Maisa HaKodem. This is Tshuva. HaKodesh Baruch Hu, so to speak, is doing Tshuva. Doing Tshuva. And it's our Tshuva, we're going to learn out from his Tshuva, and his Tshuva he'll demonstrate is really our Tshuva. Nichamti ki asitim. I have remorse for what I did, that I created him. Harbe min hashomim. Many people who hear this statement, ne'etzru lihitrapez al hachidush shebenekudat charata tikun etzlo kaviyachol. We're hearing it, and maybe we think we grasp it, but we're really, he says, mirov idbonanut shebenekudazu. We're missing the main point here. And then he says it in Yiddish, but he repeats it in Hebrew. Hifsidu ikar hanakuda. You lost. You really, I guarantee you, he says, you missed out on the main point of what's going on here, what's at play here. Shel Yisod HaMaimer, the basis of this statement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made. V'hu shechirut brit mehava tikun lahaba, that the Brit, the idea that the Brit, the covenant, is the tikkun, is the repair, schar, quote unquote schar, but the Brit is the tikkun, the repair of the remorse, the regret that he had. Lahaba al nichamti ki asitim kamo sheitbayer. I'm going to explain now. Go over the page. Biura shel nakuda zuhi al pi hayesod shanishna etzlenu. Very important rule in tshuva itself, right? Tshuva has a number of elements, right? Shetshuva te'una kabbalah lahava dafka. Tshuva has to have, right? I'm making a commitment for the future, right? Person, just to make an emotional, I'm going to go on a diet, right? So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for the next 30 days. I'm not going to eat this. And it's a future thing, right? Also, it's harot alavar. It's nechama. I have regret. I have remorse for what I did, but I also have to have a Kabbalah for the future. And he says like this, V'chol maisa perisha minachet. Someone who, I'm going to leave the chet. I'm not going to sin anymore. Beli Kabbalah, without making a commitment for the future, Merosh, at the beginning, right at the beginning, Yachol liot nidun kepu'ula shel yirat shamayim. You can certainly call that fear of God. It's avoda. It's yirat shamayim. I'm making a commitment. I'm not going to do what I did. What I did in the past. I'm finished. All right, that's yirat shamayim. You're a frum Jew, right? Aval eino nechshav ma'isa shel tshuva. That's not tshuva. It's not tshuva. Ki zeh klal. Here's the rule. Hatshuva te'una kabbalah merosh. Tshuva requires a Kabbalah, a commitment for the future at the very beginning, at that moment. It has to be tied in with the remorse. L'takein avar. At the same time that you're repairing the past, you're making a commitment for the future. That's tshuva. Without it, it's frumkeit. It's frum. You're Oved Hashem. You're showing that you're a God-fearing person for sure, but it's not tshuva. Kamoshu lamata. The way it is down here for us, kach hi gam lamala. This is the golden chiddush that he's saying. Where do we learn this from? Where do we learn that this is tshuva, the essence of tshuva? Right? Everything we do is imitating God. That's the mitzvah of halachta bedracha. We walk mahu ahov atfata ahov. Just like he's beloved, you have to be beloved. Mahu ohev, he loves, you have to be a lover. He does chesed, you have to do chesed. Hashem does tshuva, you do tshuva. This is where it comes from. That a Kodesh Baruch Hu, where do we learn this? That it's not tshuva if you don't have the Kabbalah haba, the future commitment at the very beginning when you have the charata, the remorse. It comes from God. B'ftei litzor shem tshuva. In order to call something tshuva, mitzdarefet Kabbalah lahaba im nechama al avar. There is a synthesis between my turning away, tearing up the past, and making a commitment for the future. Ota Kabbalah, this commitment, this futuristic commitment, lahaba hi ahodah merosh. This is an announcement, a proclamation at the very beginning. Al kritut brit l'takein hamatzav shel hadam hakodem. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the first test of Abraham, tells him at the very beginning, in your test, here's your test. The test is, charata, I have charata in the past, and I'm giving you the future. I'm telling you what I'm going to do for you in the future now, right? That the future comes together with the past is the proclamation, Merosh al kritat brit, that God is making a covenant, l'takein hamatzav shel adam hakodem. He's changing Adam HaRishon. He's changing man. The man who was created without a brit. Adam and Chava did not have a brit. Until Noach, there was no brit. All right? Until Avram, there was no brit. Right? The brit came at that moment, and that's what he's saying. I make a brit. I'm making a covenant. A brit, kritut brit, l'takein hamatzav shel adam hakodem b'li kritat brut. The mistake is that the covenant that I didn't make. I created man, but without a covenant. There was no covenant. There was no brit. Nakut klal ze biyadecha. Hold tight to this concept. Kol habritot shenichrutu HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol dorot. All of the covenantal relationships that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes with Klal Yisrael throughout Jewish history, einam ela shlavim. They are all shlavim. They're rungs on a ladder. They're levels. B'kabbalah l'takein. It's all about fixing and repairing Otat Surat Adam, that first man, Shenivra Tchila B'li Brit, who was created without a Brit, Adam HaRishon. That's the whole idea here, right? And the only way to correct it is to bring the past and the future together at the very beginning. That's the bridge. Okay, so let's see it. Ba'amirat lech lecha, when God tells Avraham Avinu, lech lecha, the first test, la'Avram, hitchil hata'alich shel yetzirat tikun, oto adam, she'alav nemar nichamti lekach. When he gave the test to Avraham, it was the formation of the repair of Adam. Now, nichamti, I regret that I created him. Mofia kan haftacha schar. Therefore, he has to tell him at that moment the future. Lo betor schar, but it's not reward. This is not reward, right? He's using the word schar, but it's not reward. El betor kabbalah. I am making a commitment to you, right? I'm sending you. You're going to go, and you have to. This is where you're going, and I'm making a commitment to you. Part of this, the repair of Adam Arishon in Avraham Avinu, is that he's bringing the Kabbalah Haba together with the past, leaving where you're from, leaving your country, leaving your town, leaving your father's house, right? Tremendous. Leaving everything that represents Adam Arishon into the new shlav, the new level of Adam, the Yehudi, the Adam of Israel that's being created now. Kaviyachol Omer, God is saying, Ani mekabel alai. I'm making it me. I have to do that. Bris is between two people. Kaviyachol. I'm making this commitment. La'asot kach v'kach. This is what I'm going to do. Ve'eschal agai gadol. I'm going to make you a great nation. V'gad l'shemecha. I shahatiku, because I made a commitment. I have to be metik. I have to be metakin what I created. Right? I'm so sorry about what I did. I'm sorry about what I did. Right? So what has to go together with that? I have to, with that tikkun has to come a commitment for the future, right? That's my commitment to you. I'm not giving you a reward. I'm telling you that's the mitzvah, that's the relationship that we have together. It has to be part of the agreement that I'm making with you. It has to be there from the beginning. I regret it, and I'm making a commitment for the future. Baruch is doing this. God is making a commitment to the future, right? While he's making this move of bringing Avram to the next shlav of a man, of what a man is supposed to be. In line with this, bo kan haftacha, promise, hatzmuda letzivui, which is like a commandment. Hamechuvan hu letzayin berosh. But Baruch was making it clear from the beginning. Shekol ma sheyaseh b'tahalich zeh, everything that will be done in this journey, be'ikvot haftacha kabbalah, b'kritat brit, iba. Everything that's going to happen now is because of this symbiosis of your leaving the past and moving into the future. My leaving the past and my moving into the future. You are making a covenant with me, which does both of those things at once, right? It's all there about. Aval pisha ein kan brit mamish. It's not really the covenant yet, but he says you should know, mikol mokum brit ben habesarim, the covenant between the pieces, which will come later for Avraham. Eino ela hemshech birur hamaisakan. This is the beginning. The beginning of that covenant that God makes with Avram for his future generations. We'll get to that in a few weeks. This is part of it. This is the beginning of it, right? Amazing idea. The Rebbe Shem is doing tshuva. So you can't do tshuva without making a commitment for the past. So he makes a commitment for the past, and that's what Avraham Avinu, what he's doing for Avraham also. Next paragraph. Hashda, move on. Now we understand. Shirak hatzivu shel lech lecha. Only lech lecha. Right? The first test, the beginning, the break from the past. Nemar schar merosh. Mitam haniskar, for the reason that I explained, has to have the schar right there. Ve'ilu be'akeda, but by the akeda, shelo bo haschar rak betor schar. By the akeda already, the schar was schar. Avraham Avinu was given schar, was given actually a reward for what he accomplished. Schar, a reward comes at the end. L'chein lo nemar ela b'sof. Reward doesn't come at the beginning, right? The reward comes at the end, right? Kimo kol tashlumin she'enan ela b'sof, right? You pay at the end. But this is not paying. This is not schar. The word is schar, but it's Kabbalah for the future, right? Now he goes, he says, Me'ata iyam miushav koshi hakatuv. Now the difficulty of one of the psukim that we quoted at the beginning, they see why I brought these psukim at the beginning. B'knisat Noach l'teva. When Noach goes into the ark, Hakimoti et briti itcha. I am making this covenant with you. Ubata el ateva, when you come in to the teva. Halo adayin lo nichrita shum brit ba'ol. There's no brit here. I'm going to make a brit with you when you come into the ark. Im kein al eze brit midubar kan. What covenant is the Rebbeinu Shalom speaking about to Noach? Right? There was no brit yet. What covenant? The brit comes with Avraham Avinu later, but what brit is he making with Noach? And the Torah uses the word brit. What does he mean? So I mentioned 3 meforshim we saw, right? Could be the rainbow, right? That he'll have food, no one's going to kill him, but meaning like this: Omek hapshat, the depth of this quote unquote brit with Noach. V'zeh nimtza b'meforshim shepirshu. Shazot Habrit Remez Lekeshet, right? He's quoting the Ramban, but it's really not the Ramban. It's the Ibn Ezra that the Ramban is quoting. It's the rainbow. Av Shadayin Lo Noada. Didn't happen yet, right? Didn't happen yet. But he's mentioning it now, even before it happens, right? There's going to be eventually, Kodesh Baruch is going to say, okay, here's the rainbow. But he's telling him now before it happens, right? Velo huskra brit hakesh. He doesn't say exactly what it is. Heim advorim. That's the point. Noach matzachein. The last pasuk in Bereshis. Noach was found. God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu found him pleasing. Noach mehava shlav rishon. Noach was the first shlav, the first rung in the ladder. B'tahalich hatikun, in the repair, the asiyat Adam. From Adam to Noach, 10 generations, right? So now you have the first shlav of repair, and that first shlav of repair has to have both leaving the past, getting into that ark, getting into that teva, and leaving the past, and it has to have a future, right? It has to have a Kabbalah. Motzimanu kfar gam kan pu'ula u'tenua derech Kabbalah lahaba shalmaila. So there's here a hint already. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mentions Brit. I have to be making with you. I have to say it to you, Noach. I have to say it to me. You might not know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to make I am making a covenant for the future with you. What that covenant is remains to be seen. But if I don't make a covenant for the future with you, then it's merely, I'm doing the right thing. I'm leaving the past, or like we say in Tshuva. So I have Yiras Shamayim, Azivas Hachet, leaving the sin behind me. But that's not Tshuva. There has to be Azivat Hachet, leaving behind what I have remorse for, regret. In this case, Adam without what we have with Torah, right? I have to have a Kabbalah for the future. Lifnei Knisato L'Teva, before he goes into the ark. Because going into the ark, that is the moment of Parat al-Avar. He's leaving the past, right? At that moment, the same time. Symbiosis. Kfar nemar lo v'hakimoti et briti. I'm making a covenant with you. I promise you. He has to say that. Otherwise, it's not real. He's not changing anything. He's not changing the scenery. Hainu haftachat brit, a promise of a brit. Afilu lifnei shehigia lavir ha'olam, even before he gets onto dry land, the poel mamish has to be there from the beginning. So Noach was shlav rishon, Avram is shlav beit, right? In creating this new man. Powerful idea, right? Okay, let's little bit of a lighter idea, perhaps. And if we have time, I don't know if we will talk about the rainbow for a minute. This is from Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. And Rabbi Yaakov, Vayomer Arur Kanan, Eved avadim yelachiv. Switching topics here completely. Very, very stark commitment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes that Canaan will be cursed. Canaan, the nation of Canaan, Canaan himself and his nation will be a cursed people. They'll be Eved Avadim. They'll be servants of servants to your brothers, to you, the Jew, call Yisrael. Now, he's going to talk about the concept of the chosen people and anti-Semitism. Hine, yeshnan misonenu mu'umot ha'olam. Amongst the anti-Semites in the nations of the world, hatoanim sheklal Yisrael hi umma gazanit. They say that Klal Yisrael is an umma gazanit. What's umma gazanit? A race. We're a race. We're racist. We're a race. Shahari HaTorah omeret sheKanan arurhu. The Torah says Canaan is cursed. V'hu yevet avodim. They'll be your servants. Hare shehishpila Torah et geza Canaan, the race of Canaan, lemadreget evet. They're put down to the level of servants. Aval haemet vadahi locate. The truth is, we know it's not true. Dahazeh barur. It's clear shedat haTorah hi keneged gazanut. The Torah riles against racism. The Torah completely negates the whole concept of racism. Listen, I'll give you proof. I mentioned it. He writes somewhere else. The Mishnah in Sanhedrin is a Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Many of us know this Medrash, this Mishnah. Why was man created one? Why was there one Adam Arishon? So one guy won't say that another guy, Abba Gadol mi Avicha, right? No, my father's bigger than your father. My father's greater. No, there's only one father, right? Hare shebedafka, Shina HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'min ha'adam mishar aminim. The creation of man was completely different than the creation of all the other species, right? Ubor rak Adam Yechidi. He created one man, right? Not pairs, right? Yechidi, kedei shelo yavo b'nei Adam lidei mida migunazu, so that people will not come to this disgusting level of this concept, this worldview, which is called racism. Ela shelefi zeh tzrichim levaer et pulato shel Noach. So therefore we have to understand what happened here, that Noach was the one that cursed Canaan, right? Mishar min Adam, and Noach put him down, right? Noach said, Canaan, because of what he did, the terrible Maisa with revealing Noach's nakedness and so on. It sounds like a pure kind of racism, right? No. This has nothing to do with gazanut. Sometimes I'll tell you, the Sefer Mesilat Yesharim, in his Hakdama, the Sefer Mesilat Yesharim is one of the greatest works of Musar that ever existed, right? Lutzato, the Ramchal, wrote Mesilat Yesharim. He himself went through a period of time where his books where there was a cherem on his books. They didn't understand them. They thought he was preaching Kabbalah, that nobody knew what he was talking about. He had to leave where he went from Amsterdam. Eventually, right, about 200 years after the Ramchal lived, his forum were discovered. And the Vilna Gaon said, if he were alive today, I would walk. He says the first 8 chapters of Mesilat Yesharim, he says, is Ruach HaKodesh. If I would walk to Italy, I would walk on foot to go and see him, to Mekabel upon him. So he writes in his Akdama, I'm just bringing this out based on, this is not what Rav Hutner said before was a tremendous chiddush for us. This is not necessarily a chiddush. It's like everything I present to you, the Mesilat Yesharim said, that Lutzato said, is I'm just presenting you everything that you know. I'm presenting everything that we know, everything that I'm just putting it in words so we can understand it better, right? In a certain sense, Rabbi Yaakov is doing that now, right? What's he going to say? What's the answer to this question? It's not racism. The gazanut perusha, What's racism? Shegeze echad mitnasei me'al geze acher. That one race is a superior race. Biglal motza'o v'yichuso, because of its origins, where it comes from, its yichus, its pedigree, right? Its biology, whatever. Uki'ilu shu notzar mechomer Eloi, as if it was created from a superior matter, right? That those people. V'tov yoter ukadoma, much more superior matter, right? Biologically, etc. Aval, that's not the way we know that's not the way it goes here. Aval kan hatam, what's the reason? Shechilek beineim Noach haya mishum midotav hamushchatot shel Cham ubeno Canaan. It was the perverse and disgusting midos, the character traits of Cham and his son Canaan. Umidot elu hinchilhu levanav acharav, and those midos, those terrible midos, were given over to his children. They were given over. It was that was their Masorah, these terrible character traits, right? Ukemosha amru Chazal, the Rabbi says, the Gemara Psachim, Chamisha dvorim siva Canaan et banav. Canaan, we saw the last will and testament of Canaan to his children, right? He doesn't give all of them, but Va'avo et hagezel, love robbery. Va'avo et hazima, right? Love sexual perversion. Usano et adonechem, and hate people with position. Va'al tidabro emes, don't speak the truth, right? This was the constitution, right, of Canaan. Umikivan shero Noach midot ke'elu. Noach saw it. Eitzel mishpachat Canaan. He saw this in Canaan. Me'az kilel otam, and therefore he cursed them. She'yisharu avadim, that they should remain avadim. They were hopeless. They were never going to. No interest in forgetting the past, let alone no interest in tshuva for the future. But they had no interest of giving up their past. Their past was their present. Sheyasa avadim kol yemei chayeihem v'lo yavo b'kal Yisrael, and Canaan cannot become part of the Jewish people. Kemokain, he says. Umasha anu omrim. What do we say about Bnei Israel? We say in the Yont of Davening, fresh in our minds, in the Shmon Esrei, Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim. You chose us from all the nations. Sonei Yisrael, our enemies say, Tanu, Shemizeh anu marim ki'ilu anu choshvim et atzmenu lemiyuchasim yoter miumat ha'olam. I mean, this is really a big time what's going on in the world today. We know it. It's all veiled, whatever it's not, the veil is coming off. This terrible anti-Semitism, this worldwide anti-Semitism, it's not getting better. It's becoming worse. And maybe it started anti-Zionism, but they can't fool us. We know that. And they're not even fooling themselves anymore. But there's a certain jealousy. There's a certain feeling that we've always felt that we're better, right? I'm better in a certain sense. When you think about it, in the United States, the Jewish population in the United States is something like 2% of the United States, or the population of the United States, right? And you just look at what has been accomplished by OUisrael in the United States, right? The Nobel Prizes, I think 36% of the Nobel, something like that, 36% of the Nobel Prizes went to Jews, right? So, but there's a certain creates this hatred. We think we're better, right? That's what they say. Vadayin zemishum shadat Yisrael gazanit hi chas v'shalom. We're not chosen because chas v'shalom we are a superior race. El sha'anu omrim, we say shemikivan sha'anu yarashnu midot mehuganot v'yisharot me'abirei deya, but we inherited the midot, the gentility, the qualities of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. Ki'ilu kemo Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, v'anu amadnu b'Har Sinai, and we stood at Har Sinai. V'kabalnu Torah Hashem, we received the Torah. Mipi Moshe Rabbeinu. Memelu anu b'nei Maila. So yes, there's a superiority to Yisrael, right? Because we've taken the character traits of the Avot, and we've taken the Torah that the Rabbi Shalom, we've been faithful to the Torah. Mishara Amim. Ki harianu, sheyifarnu et atzmenu, b'midot tovot, V'hitkarvut l'Hashem Yitbarach. We have taken good midos, and we draw ourselves closer to the Ribbono Shel Olam, which again, tragically, the masses of Jews today, the assimilation it's mind-boggling. I don't know if I mentioned it here, but what's been going on with and the campuses, we've talked about it. You're all aware of it, maybe even more than I am. You read a lot, you see, but somebody came into to a Chabad house on campus in the United States, and he says, you got to teach me. Teach me what? I want to know what is about me that people hate. I don't know anything about myself, right? I don't know anything about myself. Understand that the overwhelming majority of young American Jews never saw a grandmother light Shabbos candles, right? They don't know what a kosher home is, right? So this kid, one of the million true stories that have been happening. We hear all the terrible things that are happening on college campuses, but there's a lot of good things happening. I want to know what it is. What you're going to teach me? What is it about me that they hate, right? Aval hare kol mi sherotzeh yachol lehitgayer ulehitztaref. Somebody who wants to convert and join the Jewish people. Az gam hu yachol lomar al atzmo ata b'chartanu mikol amim. A ger tzedek, a righteous convert, can also say, right, Ata b'chartanu mikol amim, right? So that's not racist, right? They certainly don't have our genes, right? So, but a ger tzedek, by accepting Torah, right, and embracing Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ata v'chartanu, that's the chosenness. Ma she'en zeh emet b'shar umot hagazaniyot, but this is not true with other races. Shalom marshim le'echad min hachutz lehitztaref alehem, right? Umuchrach zeh mima she'anu omrim. So now, when we say Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim, you chose us from all the other people. V'chein omrim anu b'birchat HaTorah. When we say bracha for the Torah, kol yom asher bachar banu, we say every morning, birchas HaTorah asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. You chose us from all the other nations. V'afal pikein, right? B'seder haslichot anu omrim ashamnu mikol am. But we say we have sinned. We're the worst. The Jewish people are the worst. We're the azim sheba umot, right? That's the truth. And because we have the Torah and we should know better, ulachur zeh tamua. How do you? It's kind of contradiction. We're chosen from all the other people in the world. Yet we sin more than anybody else. That's what we're talking about. Our greatness is not about our yichus, our pedigree. That we came from a superior kind of a genealogy. We are chosen from all of the other people because of our chosen midot, right? Since we sinned and we didn't accept upon ourselves, so it's a double-edged sword, right? The greater a person is, the more severe is his sin if he falters, right? When someone comes to convert, we all know that we discourage it. But what do we say to them? Are you aware? You read the newspapers? You see that the Jewish people are hated more than any other people in the world? Take a look what's going on in the world today. Look at the United States. Look at Great Britain. Look what's going on. Look at the infighting in Eretz Yisrael between people who don't want Torah and God and just want a nation like the United States, right? So what do you want to be a part of this for, right? So once the person says, I want to be a part of it, so you got to know everything you have to do, and let's see what happens. So that's basically what Rabbi Yaakov tells us again, as the Mesilas Yesharim says. I don't come to teach you something that you don't know. It's just to review something we already know. That's Rabbi Yaakov's idea tonight. Okay, that's it. No rainbow. We ran out of time. Maybe next week we'll talk about the rainbow. There's so much in Noach. There's so much in every parsha in Bereshit. Okay, have a wonderful week. And those of you who are coming Wednesday for halacha, I have to remind myself, what am I doing? Oh, I'm doing a question in halacha. Somebody actually brought it to my attention a few weeks ago. A jeweler, a Jewish jeweler, is he allowed to sell crosses for business? Right? Interesting, Shaila, eh? Okay, maybe it's not interesting. It is, or you're all welcome to come. Okay, have a nice evening, everybody.